survivors, and welcome to Survivor's Guilt, the only channel that calculates your odds of surviving 2014's Clown, so stay tuned for your survival stats. I'm your host, GhostFake, a proud member of the Mutant Fam, a diverse community made up of fans of the drive-in. Today, we are taking a look at 2014's historical clown revisionist film, Clown. But first, go ahead and try on that thumbs up button and see how it fits. And you might not know this, but that subscribe button is also a horn, so go ahead and honk it. I'm sorry, that was just a trick. And go ahead and hit that share button to let others know where clowns actually came from. Now I hope you like your dad turning into a horrifying version of the thing you love the most, cause this movie is getting spoiled. Clown, written by Christopher Ford and Jon Watts, and directed by Jon Watts, starring Laura Allen, Andy Powers, Peter Stormare, and Christian Distefano. Clown is about a real estate agent slash father who puts on a clown costume he found for his son's birthday, only to find out that getting out of it will be a real mess. I'm going to say this right from the get-go, this movie is incredibly dark, despite the premise being hilarious, which makes it impossible for me to talk about this movie without a huge smile on my face. We open up to a child's birthday party where we get introduced to Meg, who is throwing a party for her son Jack. Meg's sister offers her a drink, but Meg drops the bomb that she is pregnant and must abstain. She tells her sister to keep it hush-hush since Kent doesn't know. We then get introduced to Walt, Meg's dad, who doesn't have a very high view of Kent. Meg then gets a call from the clown that was supposed to show up at the party, but had to cancel because they double booked. We cut over to Kent, who is getting a house ready to sell, when he gets a call from Meg, letting him know about the clown cancel. Lucky for them, the house Kent is getting ready to sell has some costumes in the basement, and Kent begins searching for a costume he can wear. Unfortunately, every costume he finds is either too cold or too hot, too hard or too soft, until he finds one that is just right. We cut back over to the party, where Jack is all disappointed that both his dad and the clown haven't shown up yet. But just in the nick of time, Kent shows up as Dumbo the Clown, in what is probably one of the worst clown costumes of all time, in a multitude of ways. After successfully celebrating Jack's birthday, Kent attempts to slip out of the costume and into something more his wife, but Meg wants to take a shower first, and Kent falls asleep on the couch. The next morning, Kent wakes up still in the costume, and is concerned that the wig may be stuck. He shows up at the house that he is getting ready to sell.
Why are you dressed like a clown?
You guys have kids?
And sets up the crew tearing out the carpet, while he heads to the bathroom upstairs to get cleaned up. But the wig is stuck to his head, the nose is stuck to his nose, and the costume is stuck to his body. He finds a box cutter in the drawer, and decides that it's finally time to end his life, in the costume, and cut it off of him once and for all. And he accidentally slices his wrist in one of the cringiest scenes in the movie. Before he goes downstairs and grabs a sawzall and gives that a try. But even that mighty blade is no match for this suit. That night, Kent gets home after sitting outside waiting for his father-in-law to leave, and he still hasn't made his way out of the costume, and their dog Shadow doesn't like that. He explains to Meg that he can't get out of the costume, and Meg takes him upstairs and tears off the nose. Which unfortunately Shadow eats before they can pick it up. Kent goes to the hospital where a doctor patches up his nose and lets him know that he'll just have to let the adhesive dissolve. Kent argues that he didn't use any adhesive and that the wig is stuck and that the makeup keeps coming back. The next day, Kent goes to the office to find out who the old owner of the house was so that he can finally get some answers. Unfortunately, the old owner of the house is now deceased, making Martin Carlson deposit number 1 into our meat bank. Kent finds the number to Carlson Costumes, which was the name on the chest that held the costume, and calls it. The man on the phone lets him know not to touch the costume, and Kent drops the bomb that he's already wearing it and can't get it off. The man on the phone gives him a BS excuse as to why that is, and a real address for them to meet up at. And when Kent writes down the address, we see the seam where Kent's hand met the sleeve is now disappearing, fusing the costume to his skin. Kent shows up at the warehouse and gets introduced to Bert Carlson, the man from the call, and the two of them sit down for tea. Bert explains that he and Martin had a complicated relationship and that he hasn't spoke to him in years. He explains that the costume is an old one, but traditional in Nordic regions before clowns became silly characters.
The original clown, he was not funny at all.
He explains that very few people know the true origin of what is commonly known as the clown. He teaches Kent that the clown is based off the legend of the Cloyne, which was a demon that lived up in the mountains and would lure children away from the villages and eat them, but it would only eat 5 children.
5 children. 1 child for every month of winter.
And that over the centuries, the legend has changed to what is now known as the clown. But while Bert explains the legend, Kent starts passing out, having been drugged by Bert. When he wakes up, he finds himself tied to a table, and Bert explains to him that the tea was supposed to keep him out for hours, and that decapitation is the only way to stop the demon. Kent breaks free just in time to not lose his head, but gets a cleaver stuck in his shoulder.
What the
Kent gets control of the situation and asks Bert what in the hell is going on, and Bert lets him know the rest of the legend, telling him that he is not wearing a costume, but rather the skin and hair of the clone. He kidnaps Bert and heads to his house to let Meg know that they need to go to the police, but when he is confronted by her dad and her brother-in-law Dave for being crazy, he unintentionally breaks Dave's arm and tells Meg to meet him at the police station. On the way to the police station, Kent pukes up some rainbow and experiences some growing pains in his fingers and toes. Bert begins choking him, and Kent loses control and veers off into a concrete barrier. He climbs out of his vehicle, and his stomach starts to growl when he sees the children in the vehicle that pulled over to help. Kent then takes off into the woods. We cut over to this Boy Scout who finds Kent leaned up against a tree, and Kent asks him for some food. But when the Scout tries to hand Kent a snack, Kent snacks on his hand and bites off one of his fingers. The next day, Meg tells Jack that if Kent tries to pick him up from school, he shouldn't leave with him. Meg goes home and finds the journal about the clone, and Kent finds that his teeth are doing something funny. Kent heads to a vacant apartment that he is trying to sell, I guess, and meets Robbie, a friendly kid that lives in the apartment complex.
My name's Robbie. What's your name?
And he offers Kent something to eat when he can hear his stomach gurgling. The next day, while Meg is noticing that Shadow is acting kind of funny, she gets a call from Kent. He explains that he's sorry for everything and then hangs up the phone. He then deposits himself into the meat bank at deposit number 2. Oh, never mind. Bert said that decapitation is the only way. Kent goes to the store and buys some circular saws to engineer a pretty sweet self-decapitation machine, while Meg goes to all the properties that he has for sale looking for him. He prepares to tip himself backwards into the saws, but falls sideways when someone opens the door and startles him. It turns out that it was Robbie bringing something for him to eat, but when the two saw blades make contact, the blades shatter, sending shrapnel across the room, right through Robbie, sending him into the meat bank at deposit number 2. Unfortunately, with his decap machine out of order and a dead kid in his apartment, Kent realizes that he can't just let a good dead body go to waste. Meg shows up at the apartment and the two have a conversation through the door, with Kent only vaguely alluding to what he has been up to. She tells Kent that she believes him and that he is going through something crazy and that her and Jack need him, and also that she is pregnant, and Kent decides that he wants her to take him home. The next morning, Meg gets Kent all chained up in the basement, and he says that he can feel himself changing and that no matter what he says, she cannot let him out. Meg is determined to fix her husband and grabs Bert's journal to begin cramming on the clone. She puts 2 and 2 together, which equals that Bert Carlson is actually Martin Carlson's brother, and goes to visit him at the hospital, figuring that he probably has some useful information. As it turns out, his jaw is wired shut, so he has to write his responses. Unfortunately for her, his writing hand is wired shut and he won't give her any answers, so she leaves and goes to his dead brother's property to search for clues. She finds an odd chair with a camera pointed at it, and when she watches the footage on the camera, she discovers that Martin Carlson worked as a doctor at a children's cancer hospital, and that Bert donned the clown costume to cheer up the children his brother was working with. But Bert succumbed to the clone, and his brother had to smuggle dying children out of the hospital to feed him to get his brother back, which means that those 5 children fed right into the meat bank at deposits 3 through 7. And while Meg is watching that footage, we cut over to Jack, who is being bullied at school by Colton, but he gets away when he bites Colton's hand and runs home. Kent tricks Jack into coming downstairs, and then Jack tells him about the bullies at school. Meanwhile, Meg gets a call from her sister and finds out that Jack wasn't at the school when she went to pick him up, so Meg rushes home to find him, worried that Kent might have gotten to him. She finds Jack safe, but Kent is nowhere to be found. We cut over to Colton's house where he is playing a video game with some of his trash-talking friends. Colton gets up to clean up a spill when he realizes that the patio door is open, and he thinks that someone may be in the house. And when Colton goes quiet on his mic, his friends begin to think that maybe he is in trouble with his parents because he was ditching class to pick on Jack.
I'm just gonna rub it all over that little douche's face.
Guys, shut up!
Unbeknownst to them, that Kent is hearing everything that they're saying. But when Kent has heard enough, he rushes Colton and one-shots him into the meat bank at deposit number 8. Cut over to Meg, who's getting Jack ready to go stay with her dad, when she discovers that Shadow has gotten out of the laundry room. Shadow, who now looks a little more malevolent, approaches Meg and she backs away but falls over her bags. When Shadow goes to jump on her, Bert appears from out of nowhere and decapitates Meg's new breed of dog, mid-jump, killing Shadow and scarring Jack for life. Meg flips out and Bert reminds her that he is the only one who can help them get the costume off. He cuts the wires out of his mouth and tells her how he came in possession of the clown costume and how his brother saved him. He also tells her that they tried to destroy the costume, but that it can't be done. And he tells her that even the smallest piece carries the curse, which explains why Shadow became a clown demon thing. And when Jack tells them that Kent went to Colton's house, the two of them head there as well, only to find Colton's half-eaten corpse. They brainstorm where a clown could go where it wouldn't be noticed, and conclude that that place must be Chuck E. Cheese. Now I don't know about you, but I would definitely notice a clown at Chuck E. Cheese. But maybe it's a regional thing. Meg goes inside to look for Kent, and unfortunately gives up pretty quick before this kid gets devoured into the meat bank at number 9. And then she heads back out to the van. Meanwhile, this kid jumps into the death pit and complains that someone peed in it, but in reality they merely bled into it. We then meet this kid who is trying to find his brother Greg, because their mom says that they have to go. And when he climbs through the tunnels looking for his brother, we see further evidence of that dead ball pit kid. And when this kid finally does find Greg, he's about to get devoured by Kent, but this kid distracts him long enough for Greg to get away. But unfortunately, Kent gets this kid and devours him into the meat bank at deposit number 10. Greg slides down the slide to tell his mom what happened when his brother's remains come down the slide after him, which starts a panic inside the Chuck E. Cheese. Meg meets up with Bert and the two go on a cloyne hunt. Meg finds Kent, who claims to have no idea where he is or what's going on. But when Bert tries to cut off his head, the cloyne knocks him down and Meg pleads with him to let Bert help him by cutting off his head. But the demon clown tells her to bring him one more child.
Bring me a child.
And she'll be able to have her husband back. The cloyne tells Meg to meet him at her and Kent's favorite spot, and to bring the child. Meg leaves out an emergency exit only to find a gaggle of unsupervised children. Meg, in order to subvert the temptation to steal one of them, goes to sit in her van and mull over the offer that the demon made her. She hears over the radio that Bert has been arrested, when all of a sudden a girl named Annie knocks on the window asking her for a ride home. Yeah, Annie, she'll give you a ride. All the way into our meat bank. Annie climbs into the van and Meg drives her home. Home being her and Kent's favorite spot. She pulls up to their spot and wakes Annie up and kicks her out of the van. When Annie realizes that this is definitely probably not her home, Meg locks her out of the van. As a parent, I find this hilarious. Locking your kids out of the car so they get eaten by clowns is the oldest trick in the book. Annie, upon realizing that Meg pulled a fast one on her, gets more frantic to get back into the vehicle, and eventually Meg realizes that proper character development requires an arc of redemption, even if it's a small one. But when Meg opens the door, a cop pulls up and scares Annie and she runs off anyway. The cop tells Meg to stay put, but Meg remembers that she has a son and decides to go check on him instead. Just then, her dad, who is watching Jack, takes him to Kent and Meg's house, believing that he needs to talk to Kent about his odd behavior, and he discovers some bones on his way in the house. Shortly thereafter, Meg arrives at the house and confronts her dad, but Walt already found evidence of what Kent has been up to, eating kids and all, and vows to clean up the mess so that Meg is not implicated.
No one will know. Baby.
Making him both the best and worst father of the year. But while Meg is mulling it over, Kentywise the demonic clown pops up behind him and rips his jaw off, ripping Walt into the meat bank at deposit number 11. Kentywise then lets out his battle cry, which if you listen really close, I'm pretty sure you can hear a horn. This movie is so f***ing awesome. Kentywise then asks where the kid is that she promised him, prompting Meg to run to the garage for a weapon. But when Jack's curiosity is sparked, he comes downstairs, only for Meg to quietly send him back to his room because this part's too scary for a little kid. The demonic clown then traps her in the garage and remembers that Meg is with child. Come on, Meg, have you been holding out on us? When the cloyne starts digging into her stomach, she yells for Jack to run, either to distract the cloyne or to throw Jack under the bus. I'm not sure which. Either way, Jack goes and hides in an unfinished area of their house, and Meg attacks Kentywise when she tries to find him. But the clown fights dirty and takes a bite out of her shoulder before throwing her into a cabinet, knocking her out, leaving him free to play a game of hide and seek with Jack. The clown finds Jack no problem on account of its keen sense of smell, but when it goes for Jack, Meg throws a chain around its neck and chains the cloyne to the water heater. And the harder the cloyne fights to get to Jack, the harder the chain digs into its gaping throat hole. Meg hesitates finishing the cloyne when Kent's voice comes from the clown, asking Meg to help him. She turns to Jack and asks him to go get the book, and some more chains. Jack, who is definitely confused, asks why, and Meg asks Jack if he wants to help Daddy. Jack reminds her that that's not Daddy. Just then, Kentywise makes one last go at Jack, digging the chain further into its neck, and Meg brings the sledgehammer down on his back, effectively decapitating the clown when the chain finishes what it started, effectively adding Kent into the meat bank at deposit number 12, because I'm pretty sure he's not coming back from that. Meg then gives Jack a hug, because hugs are the best, and the cloying body begins to dissolve. Cut over to the coroner's office where Kent's things are being collected, showing us that the clown demon skin costume is going to be hanging out in the evidence locker, and the movie ends. So now, to find out, what are your chances of suffering survivor's guilt? This is where we take a look at our main characters and the death that surrounds them to determine your odds of surviving this movie. We start our meat bank deposits with Dr. Martin Carlson, whose death and subsequent estate sale kicked off these horrific events, landing at deposit number 1. We then get Robbie, who was just trying to give the clown some food, giving the clown some food at deposit number 2, followed by the kids that Bert Carlson had to eat to break the curse at deposits 3 through 7. We then get Jack's bully Colton getting pwned at deposit number 8, followed by the leftovers in the ball pit staining our socks at deposit number 9. We then get Greg's older brother going down the slide the hard way, sliding in at deposit number 10, and Walt doing his best funny face at deposit number 11. And wrapping up our meat bank deposits, we've got Kentywise, the tap dancing clown, losing his head at deposit number 12. Now let's take a look at our survivors. We've got Meg, Jack, the unborn baby McCoy, and Bert Carlson. So out of a total of 16 characters, only 4 survive, giving you a 25% chance of surviving this movie. Given those odds, do you think Annie ever made it home? Let me know in the comments below. Also, how many children can you eat before you regret life's decisions? Also, this is the first one I've recorded since the channel hit 1,000 survivors, so I wanted to thank you guys for that. That is a pretty big milestone, and we have some pretty big things in the works. So cheers to all of my survivors, and cheers to all of the friends that we've made along the way. Thank you Frank, Video Creep, Lily, Dan, the entirety of the Mutant Fam, Matt at Garage of Horror, All Things Top 5, King Need Gore, and also a huge thank you to Brad Thornton for the awesome new channel art. You really knocked this out of the park. And of course Buster the Danish Painist Ditlev for the excellent background track. And of course to every one of my survivors. Seriously, this channel wouldn't be here if it weren't for all of you, and I can't thank you all enough. Alright guys, as always, thanks, and don't die.
This one's gonna be a hard one. No pun intended.
Down the catwalk every day, and maybe someday we'll go all the way.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. A sequel was all but inevitable, really.
I don't like drinking! We're drinking. Cheers. Do one more. Cheers, that's all. Pretty good for the oil free. Only variation. Fit your lifestyle.